Hi, I'm speaking with Catherine Prescott, the writer and director of the film Jane. Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
Hi. And I actually have to say of the film Jane, because otherwise it sounds strange to just say the writer and director of Jane. So as I told you before in, I think, one of our email exchanges, this is really one of the first films I saw submitted to the festival all the way back in December. And it really, 1,000 submissions later, it stuck with me. It stayed in my mind. And I didn't even really pay attention to who submitted it. I was just like, yeah, I like this film. And then I look at that stuff later. Can you share with us how you came to write this story?
Well, firstly, thank you for telling me that, because that was really like I said, you send the film off into the ether and you don't know. You hope people watch it, but it's always nice to hear that someone watched it and liked it. I'm trying to think. So I live in downtown LA, and downtown LA is like this microcosm for, I guess, for America in a way. It's like you have crazy converted lofts right next to low income SRO housing. And I had lived there for about 3 years. And in the first year, I'd written this script about a woman who lived in her car, who was based on a few women that I knew from, I had met through doing some work with this harm reduction organization in Austin. And so I wrote this thing about this woman living in this car. And while I was living in downtown LA, I got to know some of my neighbors in the SRO hotel, single room occupancy hotel, that was 2 buildings down from mine. And I didn't know that SRO hotels existed or what they were. And as I was getting to know a couple people living in one, and also having written this film, that I was like, oh, I don't know if I can tell enough of a story about a woman who lives in her car. I don't know if I'm the person to tell that story, but I felt like I hadn't seen someone living in an SRO hotel before in a film. And I thought it was quite an interesting world in which to set it. I also like stories where I wanted to write something where the person in it was suffering from addiction, but number one, that wasn't the only point of the whole film. 2, they weren't super just the victim or the villain or painted as this antagonist. Addiction is something that has been kind of close to me on and off throughout my whole life, not me personally, but friends and family. And I just always wanted to tell stories that included people suffering from it, but not in such a black and white way that we're usually used to seeing it. And anyway, the combination of those 2 things kind of led to Jane.
Yeah, it's I like the way you described it. Just for our audience's sake, an SRO hotel stands for what?
It's single room occupancy hotel.
Right.
So it is a form of low income housing, often for people who are formerly or otherwise would be homeless. They're often in converted hotels, and residents will rent either a micro studio with a bathroom in it, or literally just a bedroom, and then share amenities like common areas and toilets and kitchens and stuff like that. There's loads of them in downtown LA. You've probably passed them and not known what they were, but a lot of them used to be really busy actual hotels back in the day. And then I forget how long ago it was. I forget when it was, but there was an overhaul of a lot of them, and they changed them into this housing that was so desperately needed.
And I really, I liked what you were saying about how you're trying to figure out what story you feel comfortable telling. Like you didn't quite feel comfortable telling the story about someone living in their car. I'm wondering, did you have some insights, maybe from some of the conversations you'd had with some of your neighbors, that gave you a sense of how to approach the story the way you did?
Yeah, I mean, I still think, you're never going to be, I never am going to feel like I've lived that experience. I can't, you know,
Right.
but like I said, some of my close friends and family have struggled with addiction for a long time on and off.
Hmm.
And so I felt
Right.
like at least I could speak to that. And
Hmm.
a few of the women that I spoke to, um, who were living in that building, I felt like the story I was telling was different enough to their life, but at the same time was informed enough by their experiences while not just stealing from them and making something
Right.
out of it,
Right.
that I felt more comfortable that way. And I, met these women in the past. And yeah, I don't know if I'm still the person who should have told that story, but I do think that certain experiences had allowed me to at least hear about it, rather than actually experiencing it myself.
I feel like, and I've dealt with some other writer directors who've written about some difficult topics. I often find it's the humility to know I'm not sure if I'm the person that should
Yeah.
tell this story that somehow makes the story more effective. Um, let's come back to that. How did you come to cast Gail Rankin? Or is it pronounced Rankin? Is that how she
Gail
says her
Rankin, yeah.
who's perfect in this role, by the
She's
way.
I love Gail. Yeah. She was my absolute first choice.
Hmm.
And I remember being like I had seen her in Glow.
Right.
And at that point I'd only seen I think the first season was the only one that was out. Or maybe it was the first two seasons were out. So in the first two seasons, she was in, I don't know if you've seen Glow, but she's in that wolf girl outfit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember there was one scene with her where I was like, oh, wow, she's like one of the best actors in the whole show. And they never give her any screen time, really, but she's amazing. And that was all I had seen her in, really. And I said I was like to my agent, like, I really want to ask, do you know who her agent is? Like, how should I go about this? And he was like, so I wrote her a letter. I made her like a look, or I didn't make it for her, but I sent her the lookbook, the pitch materials and stuff, and the script. And I was like, there's no way she's going to say, yeah. I knew she was doing like bigger shows and stuff. And she agreed to meet me for coffee. And I thought she was meeting to sort of interview me. And then about like 10 minutes in, she was like, oh, I want to do it, by the way. I just thought we'd meet to like hang out. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh, great. Okay.
Now, what did Gail bring to the role that maybe you didn't already have sorted out at that point in time? I don't know if that question makes
No,
sense.
no, that's an interesting question. I'm trying to think. She brought a lot. I think more than anything, she brought more of a strength to the character, which
Yeah.
I hadn't. I never wanted her to be a victim, but I also had. I think Gail lifted her up even more away
Yeah.
from sort of victim status, and gave her, yeah, this like strength and this drive, and kind of a bit more like grr than
Mhm.
I had imagined. But when she did it, I was like, oh, this is much better.
Mhm. And one of the things I really appreciated was the way that you, as the writer and director, and Gail, as the performer, gave her. She's a broken woman, but you gave her this sense of dignity or of integrity, writing the apology note to the cab driver, not just running out, but actually writing the
Hmm.
apology note, and even the decision, whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision, who knows, to not have her daughter see her while her daughter is at this nice party with the foster family. Um, how did you arrive at the decisions you arrived at to show that aspect of her character? Because you're really showing that this is a person who at one point in time had a different life than the life you're seeing right now.
Hmm.
But you're doing it in a very subtle way. How did you arrive at the decisions to, to give that depth to the story?
To have her not go in, to make that choice not to go in.
Right, right.
That honestly was there for even from the when I first wrote the script about the woman in the car, who it was like her taking a bike ride across town and to try and see her daughter after school, and then she like sees her reflection and then decides she doesn't want to go like intrude on her daughter's new life. um I think the her journey, I wanted it to be more one of, it was just the small first step that she's taking to maybe believe that one day she
Mm-hmm.
could maybe go and be in that life. So even though it feels like she goes on this journey and does all this stuff and then she gets there and she can't actually go in,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted that. I hoped the end would be slightly hopeful. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was, she at least knows where she is. She knows she can get herself together, get across town. And yeah, rather than Jane just sort of slinking back into like her old ways and never going and doing that, I wanted it to be kind of, yeah, just she hasn't done a 180. She's done sort of like a 20-degree change, and but more is to come, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. And I'm obviously, I watch a lot of films for a film festival, so obviously I have to be a fan of kind of the open ending types of films. But and I usually never ask about it because my feeling is you tell the story until the story's done, and then you end the story.
Mhm.
Um, what was interesting with your choice is there were three choices there. Kind of, it could have just ended with and she didn't stay. She left the card and the gift.
Mhm.
The choice could be that you follow her back to the hotel and see her reflecting on things, but you chose to end it with that bus ride. And there was something about that I'm having trouble putting my finger on that I really like. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so originally it did end with her, with the foster mum reading, like seeing that she had a card from her.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had, my producer gave me a really good note, I think. He was like, but we've been following Jane the whole time. So though, it's like we see her decision and we get that that is an ending point, maybe we don't want to end on someone else's emotional response to Jane's decision. Maybe we want to see how Jane feels after she makes that decision, and what is the continued journey of Jane after the film, rather than just, oh, that's sad, she made this decision and who knows what will happen next. Um, and I think so that I liked that, and I made it so that the mum and the kid from the store come back on, because I wanted it to feel like what Jane really needs in order to have the confidence to go and see her daughter is acceptance by someone for being something other than just trash. That is how she sees herself.
Mm-hmm.
And this little kid from the convenience store made her feel a little bit of that earlier, but then she got kind of shut down by the mum. And then when she comes back on the bus, it's like a reminder, like both because she's a child and is the same age roughly as Jane's daughter. And this
Mm-hmm.
child didn't judge her for anything that an adult might judge her for. This child just saw a woman and like wanted to say hi. And so I hope that would give it more of a kind of, oh, one day she might be able to believe in herself enough to do
Mm. Yeah, that was a good note from
that.
your
Yeah.
producer, and I really like the way you handled it. It does end with that just that little bit of hope in there, and you just see that the trace of a smile, creep under her face, and she has such great eyes.
Gail does. It's like they're the best part of the whole thing is Gail's eyes.
Yes. So you're a pretty successful actress. My daughter's seen you, and you can guess which film my daughter saw you in. Some of our audience would know you from the TV show 24 or some things on Netflix. Is this direction you see yourself going in, doing more writing and directing? Because it's obvious to me that you're a storyteller. That's something you have within you. I'm
Thank
wondering
you.
where you feel this fits into your life.
Yes, is the answer. I feel I love acting, but I think like as I've kind of done more of it, I realized that the like when I was younger growing up, like I didn't really know about film school, and I didn't think about, like, I just watched films and loved films, and because you see the actor's face, you think like, or I thought naturally like, oh, those are the people telling the stories, the actors, because I can see them doing the thing. And then the more I did it, the more I was like, yes, the actors are like really important and they have a huge role in telling the story, but there is there's a whole world of other people who are like sort of arguably more of the storytellers that get to kind of, they light the spark that starts the whole thing. And writing in particular was something I always was like, oh my god, that would be amazing, like you could write something and then maybe like see it one day, but I just never thought it was in my realm. And I guess like I got really lucky through acting. I met enough people that were willing to kind of give me a chance and help me on little directing things. And yeah, I'd really like to do more of it.
And it's the world has become much more open too to having more female writers and directors. We've been very fortunate at our festival to, I think 2 years ago, half of our films actually were directed by women.
Wow.
And what's interesting is a lot of people's response was yours. It's like, wow, you know, you guys were really good at doing that. And we had to admit, we didn't do it on purpose. We were just
Wow.
choosing, it's a small group of people choosing the films, and we know what we like, and we like really good stories. And as I've said before, women are really good storytellers. I mean, that could sound awful if you said it the wrong way, but they're really good storytellers. And so to me, it's a natural
I
that they would
agree.
be very good directors.
Yeah, I agree. And having worked on sets, I love generalization, but I generally love working with female directors as an actor. I feel like as women, we're often taught to like consciously or unconsciously take care of other people's needs. Like,
Mhm.
and I think though that is like damaging a lot of the time, I think on set that ability to kind of empathize and go, oh, what's this person thinking versus what that person's thinking, and how are they going to, like, just organizing and controlling a set. I think that really is helped by the things that women have kind of been taught to do for a long time, without, you know, while being a strength, not kind of some draining thing that they have to do in, I don't know, relationships or career or anything like that. Yeah.
I understand. Catherine, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
I know our audience will love your film, and it was a pleasure speaking with you.
You too. Thank you so much.